with travel insurance and with smart home. So I'm going to jump into the credit card stuff really quickly. That we've been hearing a lot from Visa that they're changing the, get this right, the SSE codes.
SSE code. MCC.
Sorry. That from that now that all of you guys were under the real estate heading for a long time, and they've moved that over to a lodging. So right now, for the companies who are not, if I'm not mistaken, if they are not, do not move over to the lodging code, you can be penalized and your credit card rates can go up. Is that correct?
Well,
And you can grab the light.
It's not the actual merchants themselves that have to change this code. It's the responsibility of their processor to actually comply with Visa's new mandate. So if Visa goes ahead and publishes the new rules, and then we have to follow. And that serves as notice when they publish it in the Visa standard manual that gets updated every now and then. Is this one? Yeah, right. Then we have to make sure that all of our clients get switched over. And the designation is any rental company that does rentals less than 30 days. So they're defining short-term rentals as less than 30 days.
So as a property manager, what do I need to do?
You need to make sure that your processor has switched you over to the compliant code, the compliant MCC code of 7011.
Have you guys heard about this yet? Lynbrook. I'm sorry, Sharon.
Hey.
So, and I didn't introduce you guys at all. I just jumped in. I'm sorry. I'm really flustered. I got ice cream, and now I'm like all crazy. So Sharon from Lynbrook. Has this come across your radar too? Have you heard about this?
It actually first started probably somewhere around the end of 2016, and Visa would come to all the processors about certain companies, and we had to switch them over to keep them compliant. So it's really not totally new. It's been around for a while.
So, as far as who's compliant and who's not, how would I know?
Well, first your processor, if you go to your processor, you can ask them what the code is. But there's another way to find out, and the reason that Visa actually rolled this out is they're saying that it stemmed from the cardholders complaining that they weren't getting their lodging points on stays with vacation rental companies. And that's true because the old code was technically retail. It was not lodging. Go ahead. Sorry. So the easiest way, I mean, is ask somebody that stayed with that and say, well, if they had a lodging card, did you get your points? So we believe that Visa is actually going to start checking. They're going to start looking at some of these large companies, and they have threatened with fines. So yeah, it's really important that people get compliant, or at least ask their processor if they've been switched over.
Do any of you guys just jump in for real?
Is it just Visa that we've heard this happening with, or do you think that MasterCard, American Express, all that?
As of right now, it's just Visa. But who's to say?
How often do these kind of changes happen?
They happen all the time. It's just the first time it's really hit our industry.
I see.
That's why it's actually really important that you work with a processor that's industry specific. There's a lot of changes going on in our industry, not only with Visa, but also with chargebacks and the regulations there and Visa's guidelines. So if you work with like Ascent or a Lynbrook Group or somebody who is familiar with all these rapid changes, you'll make sure that you're paying the lowest rates.
Sharon, tell us a little bit about you and Lynbrook. I'm going to back up to that a little bit.
Well, I actually used to work for GE, and I started out in 2005 working in the payment industry. And probably somewhere around 2007, beginning of 2008, we signed up our very first vacation rental business. I work in a family-owned and operated business. We have 9 family members and then many others who aren't. Tim joined me, my son, in 2007, early 2008. Today we work with over 1,000 vacation rental businesses around the country and process quite a bit, well over $1 billion.
And Dawn, will you tell us a little bit about you?
I started in this industry, I think, when I was 12. No, just kidding. Back in 1996. I started off with Paragon Group in Tampa, Florida.
as a property manager. And I worked for them for a while. I managed about 200 properties in Tampa. Then I decided to go over to the software side, and I worked for one of the property management software companies for 14 years. And now I've been over here on the payment side for about 8 years. So I've really gotten the opportunity to see it from a couple different angles. And Ascent has been doing this very specifically for vacation rental companies since 1996. Our founder, Regina, really got in with First Resort software, and that's how she got pulled into the vacation rental industry, and it's been our niche ever since.
Your business is really complicated. As you know, every time I have a question about it or somebody, you know, I get emails from property managers about stuff, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. There's so many very technical terms from, you know, there's things you really have to know to be an expert at it. So I think that what's difficult, you know, is finding a processing company that you can actually ask those questions to, you know, in a way. And I think both of you provide that the relationships that you don't see in, you know, in some of the other, you know, larger companies. And but as far as chargebacks go, this has been kind of an issue this year. And we had a pretty lengthy discussion about it in Gatlinburg too. Can you just give us an overview of what people are seeing on the chargeback side right now? And I think a lot of this, as far as relating to the storms and fires and everything else that's been going on lately, in terms of when travel insurance pays and when it doesn't, and when they charge back to you, just kind of what you've been seeing in the space.
Well, actually, I would say the biggest problem in chargebacks right now is fraud. Chargebacks are definitely on the rise. I think that, again, working with someone who's familiar with the industry, you want to make sure that you know and understand Visa's guidelines, and that you are looking at your rental agreements, your policies, making sure that you protect yourself as best you can. I would say go speak to your processor. There is so much, I mean, I know we do, and I'm sure you guys do as well. We spend a lot of time when we onboard a new customer explaining Visa's guidelines, making sure their rental agreement is in line with, you know, to protect them as best that they can. And, you know, different areas of the country struggle with different things. If you're, for example, if you're in Orlando, you're going to get a lot more fraud. They get a lot of international cards. People steal cards, they use them and get in and out quickly before the owner realizes that their card's been compromised. But then there's other parts of the country, I know that we've seen, and I think you have too, there was a lot of scams going around. You want to make sure you never refund a card that wasn't originally charged, because it's a good way for them to steal money. So just working with someone that can kind of educate you and teach you on all these things is super important. You can cover most of it for me.
When it comes down to, like you said, the storms and the power outage that happened down on the Outer Banks.
Did you guys hear about that? So, we're the Outer Banks girls over here. So, can you just give us a rundown of what happened?
Well, from my understanding, it was a construction. They were working on the bridge, and the construction company actually cut one of the main power lines. And how many days were you without power?
I couldn't begin to know. I think it came back on, you know, I don't
Some
know.
were 5. I know up to 5.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, I think so.
But it was
wild.
different.
It was
So,
wild.
middle of the
It
summer,
affected people's
not a
season.
hurricane.
It was people's.
Just a random, this was over a bridge, so it knocked out a whole entire island area, kind of like if it went down Fort Morgan Road. Like, every rental
Great.
gone, like for that whole entire week. And it wasn't a travel insurance thing, right?
No, because
So-
it wasn't weather related. It wasn't
Right.
an act of God. So the travel insurance companies were like, how do we deal with this? And they can make a decision: were they going to cover it or were they not going to cover it? But of course, the guest's first reaction is, I'm going to charge you. They didn't know that they had another method they could use. So we actually worked with our companies out on the Outer Banks to prepare letters that went out to the guests that says, please do not file a chargeback. This is the construction company actually set up a website where you could go in and you can submit your claim and you'll get reimbursed directly from them. So it is getting in touch with our clients when we do have a disaster like that and saying, okay, this is what you need to do, this is how you need to go out to your clients, and this is how we can help you. And it was great that those travel insurance companies did decide, for those guests that did file claims, they did cover them. I believe most of them did.
We'll hit up Tony about that in a minute.
What we did, it's not technically in any travel insurance policy, it's not covered, regardless of the travel insurance company. So travel insurance companies made a decision. I can't speak on the rest, but I can speak for me to say we did step in, and those that didn't get a claim paid by the utility company, we covered them. I think it was 7 days they were without power.
Yeah, I think that as a guest, you know, the chargeback might be what you think would be the right thing to do.
Yeah.
You know, just a rapid response, right? And I guess that happens in a lot of situations right now. You know, that
The guests will, you know, you should see some of the claims that we see come through. You know, they saw an aunt in the kitchen and they were distraught, and you never heard from them the whole time they were there, but 2 weeks later, they want all their money back. Something.
So I have a question on that, because we've gotten several of those kinds of complaints, you know, paint on the walls, the fumes. We had one who actually lied about a mandatory evacuation that we never had. Yeah, it was Nate. So when they're doing these chargebacks, and they're claiming certain types, because there's a certain code on these chargebacks, and then we get it back and there's nothing we can do. We've gone through the process of trying to cover our butts. You can't go any further past, you know, to even get your credit card information served to, you know, like put on our system, unless you hit that, yes, we agree to your rental conditions, etc. Are there any best practices that you would recommend? Because we've gone to the actual credit card companies, we've gone to these people, we've created complaints, and we've tried to, you know, not have the chargeback happen, but there was absolutely no way we would have been able to protect ourselves any further than what we've done. So is there something that you guys have had in your experience, being VRM specific, that we can do to better serve ourselves?
I would say the first thing is allow us to go over your terms and conditions. Any guest-facing documentation, such as your confirmation lease agreement, we'll run it through our chargeback department, and we'll tell you everything that you need to change, modify, delete, to make sure it's exactly the way the bank wants to see it, so you have the best chance of winning that chargeback. I would also say that documentation of everything that the guest says, everything that you've done to try to remedy the situation. But there are certain chargeback reason codes. One is not as described, and that's the most common one that most of them will use, and that's basically your word against theirs. So those are really, really tough.
The only thing I would like to add to that is, one thing that I've noticed is a lot of times you don't realize that it's not me or Dawn that are looking at your paperwork. It's actually a bank, and the issuing card bank. And a lot of them may not even know what a vacation rental business is. So I would say it's super important in your paperwork that you educate them, that you explain to them that you're not a hotel with 2 queen beds and 100 rooms. Tell them what a vacation rental business is. Explain your type of business. They're private homes taken off the market, specifically handpicked by your guest. Let them know that you're different than a hotel, and why you should win this chargeback, providing that proof that the cardholder, you know, knew, understood certain things. Provide that compelling evidence. So I think that when I see somebody fill out the chargeback paperwork and they just zip it across, they're not going to win. This guy looking at it at the bank doesn't even know who you are. But if you take the time, and we have plenty of clients who've been educated to do this, and really put together a story for the guy at the bank reading it as to why he should rule in your favor, you have a much better chance of winning.
We've run into so many brick walls with that, though, because we have actually, and I would say just in the last 3 weeks, have run into almost, I don't know, 4 or 5 of them that we were sent through with stacks of papers this thick, telling that story, explaining the maintenance calls, explaining how, you know, the guest, like I said, the guy with Nate, actually claiming that there was a mandatory evacuation. We had proof that he went to another condo down in Panama City.
And that there wasn't a mandatory.
Yeah, and there was absolutely no mandatory evacuation, which is part of the, you know, it's in our rental policies. We even sent him an email that he sent back and said, no, I'm canceling. And we're like, no, but it's not a mandatory evacuation. So it's like we're reiterating everything, but we still didn't win the case.
Yeah, it's super frustrating, and it's just as frustrating for us to see that happen. And you kind of got to look at it like these are thieves. These are people who are stealing from your business. And again, talking to a client here today, it's important that you kind of go after them. I mean, if the card association fails you, which I'm sorry that's
You're actually going to
yeah, I would like the small claims.
We did, yeah, we did on 2 of them, and we won in small claims. Well, we never made it to small claims. They
Yeah,
got
they
served a
got
letter.
As soon as they get served a letter by an attorney, many of them will turn around and go, oh, okay.
Yeah, they started calculating up, having to come all the way back down from Tennessee.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that you have to do that.
Well, the thing is that the credit card companies that are allowing the chargebacks are really enabling the fraud, and that's where it's the problem.
Totally agree.
That's the frustrating thing is
Yeah.
that they don't have to prove that they're right, we have to prove that we are, you know, that they're wrong, you know, and instead of weighing both sides. You know, there was one claim where they said they talked to the customer, the guest, but nobody picked up the phone and talked to us, and we were ruled before, just over a conversation that they had, well, it was with the guy with Nate, you know.
Well, and a lot of the times what I've seen is that, oh my God, I just literally lost my mind.
And there was a time that people didn't think about doing that kind of stuff. It's just so
They want
frustrating.
if they think that shade of
That's what's
recliner should have been a more turquoise green, and it's a bright green, you know, it's not
I
as
believe
described.
that.
You
Do
know,
you
not as
think going from, I'm sorry, Lev, do you think going from the retail section, because it's a lot of the times it's services not rendered, when clearly you were here, we served you for 7 days,
Do you get physical signature on your lease agreements?
that's what I was getting at. No, we don't, we did at one point, but we have 60% of our check-ins are on-site check-ins, and we don't have, I mean, you could get your CABA code, you go directly to your unit, and there it is. So then we have the argument against, well, a hotel does it all the time. But then again, the hotel, you check into your desk and you have a signature. So is there a way to do that with the model that we have? And then it comes back to that, if we're changing the code from a retail space or, you know, whatever, to an actual lodging, is that going to protect us better?
I would like to say yes,
But no.
but no. No, there's really no changes or no additional chargeback protection that we've been aware of. I would say, do you take any payment upon arrival? Or is it all paid
It's all,
most of the time 30 days in
yes,
advance?
yes.
So, I mean, you do have the option of having an EMV chip reader
Mhm.
that the guest can use, but if there's no payment due at arrival, that's kind of outside of your model as well. I would say physical signature of the guest. We've had clients go so far as to get copies of driver's license. We have one client that actually makes their guest at check-in stand there. They take a photo of them holding their driver's license and holding the credit card. And if the guest is not willing to do that, then they're saying, and they let the.
I don't know what I'd do if I checked in and someone said that.
Mugshot.
Yeah, really.
Wait, I mean, you're right, it doesn't come from our model. Our model is that we have, like I said, we have 60% of on-site. Our goal is to create a customer service atmosphere where they don't have to come to us first. They can come to us as they, you know, need something, but most of the time, it's such a relief for you to go straight to your condo after a 12-hour drive and be like, okay, kids, go to the pool, you know? And so we don't get that opportunity a lot of the times to collect that signature, to do something extra for that. So is there something online that is a little bit more proactive, other than just you have to click this button in order to proceed? Because that's another roadblock that we keep running into, is that, you know, we have it specifically, and we've explained this. You cannot go further without selecting that you've read and agreed to these terms and conditions, rental policies. So is there something else that we can grasp onto that we don't necessarily need that physical signature?
Yeah, not really, to be honest with you. I think that you're gonna have to go the route that you went when the credit card company fails you. Well, I should say the issuing card banks and the card associations, you have to take it to small claims court. Believe me, we get just as frustrated as you do, because we have lots of clients that struggle with the same kind of thing.
Tony?
Does offering travel insurance help or not?
If it's a legit thing, I mean, that guy was claiming that our Nate person, if he had travel insurance, it wouldn't have been covered because it wasn't a mandatory evacuation.
I'm talking in chargeback situations.
Yeah, but he was a chargeback.
Oh, okay.
So it was a catch-22. I mean, he didn't have it and it wasn't real. So I mean, it was a real fun one. We all got involved.
Yeah. Move on in. So, Lexicon Travel. This is a relatively new company, but not new people. Is that correct? Tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. I started the company with my partner Hal, who's sitting over there,
Hey,
about
Hal.
a year ago. And Hal and I, if you rewind the story, neither of us had been in the travel business before. We were really more technology oriented in our careers, and we love tech. And we both kind of wound up at this little company called LeisureLink, which you guys may be familiar with. And we don't really use that name very much anymore because we have a lot of scars to show for it. And if you're not familiar with the LeisureLink story, LeisureLink was a large channel manager, the biggest in the business, that ultimately went out of business last year, and it was a very painful time. And it's actually really related to the story we're hearing here on merchant processing, because one of the things that LeisureLink did poorly, or one of the pain points that we saw, was LeisureLink charged the credit card on behalf of the property. LeisureLink acted as the merchant of record, and I don't know if anybody has dealt with Booking.com, but Booking.com is taking that credit card and charging it. You're going to find that 30% or maybe even more are invalid credit cards. And when that happens, you have to go through a whole process with Booking.com, logging into the extranet and flagging it as invalid. And Booking.com then holds your room, subject to having a valid credit card given to you after a 36-hour period. And so we were very intimately familiar with this process, and it was very hard and very manual. And I think the tendency of a lot of channel managers is they want to please everybody, and so they end up saying, we can do that, when they're not solving the problem with technology, they're solving it with more people. And so what happened with LeisureLink is it became sort of a sin eater for the industry. So all the manual things that property managers didn't want to do, LeisureLink said, oh yeah, we'll do it. But that ended up in a very large staff. So long story short, when we started this company, we vowed not to do those things. And we took a hard look at the technology itself. And Hal and I were able to purchase the platform, and then we spent 3 months restructuring it. So streamlining it, taking all the manual steps out, and making it truly a technology company. We launched the company in March, and 2017 was a great kind of starter year for us, and we're looking to grow our business probably 3 or 4x this year.
So Steve Milo was talking earlier about channel managers, and how many of you use a channel manager? So in looking at, a lot of people still don't know, exactly what that entails, but the idea is basically being able to distribute their properties into multiple other sources. Is that like channels, to manage those channels? Outside of just distributing the properties, what else do you guys do? I mean, if I'm taking the software out there, what else is there?
So there's a lot to it, and I would say that the term channel management, to me, it connotes a certain commodity-like element, right? But there's a good way to do it, and there's a bad way to do it. And kind of the bare bones of it is, yeah, we can write an API, and we can get your availability, your calendar distributed to a bunch of different places and synchronized. We can get your rates synchronized. But then it starts to really fall apart because content is not the same. And so what we provide is the basics, but we also provide content curation, which allows us to go onto the channels and convert very well, because what's the point of using a channel manager if you're not converting very well? In addition to that, we have a revenue management platform where customers can see the pricing of their competitors, and you can go in and create an index and see where it's tracking on a daily basis. And we also have a staff of very dedicated account managers that have a lot of experience in the industry. People who come from OTAs, people who understand the ins and outs of that dynamic.
Matt, tell us a little bit about, you've been around for a while in our space. Most of you have probably met Matt.
Maybe one point or another.
Tell us about you and BookingPal.
So it's kind of ironic, our starting point, our starting story kind of ends up in the same point. We started out with very, very few people from the travel space. really our CEO beforehand actually had a company called I Can Buy that the sole purpose was seeking rates for mortgage lending. Right? A couple years later, he was searching for a vacation rental on his favorite site, Expedia, couldn't find anything. Right? So asked property manager why, being light bulb, and a couple years later, he started booking Pal. We, similar to you guys, had purchased a platform that had the bare minimum, ability to push and pull inventory, sync rates, et cetera. And from that, we scrapped the tech, rebuilt on it, and built on it, and done connectivity with going on a little over 20 channels, including all the major ones, as well as some niche market sites, and about 50 property management softwares and custom integrations for clients who have their own software. But in terms of channel management, I think that really simplifies it down to what needs to be done to actually generate revenue out of these channels. We refer to ourselves as a distribution manager. To me, a channel manager is somebody that kind of does plug and play. I'll sync your rates, you guys can handle everything else, right? What we've been the challenge with as a technology company coming into the space, maybe 3 years ago, that was our same idea. It's like, okay, cool, we just have to sync rates, we have to sync availability, we have to build the content. We quickly learned over the first 3 or 4 months that if we spent a lot more dedicated time working on that content before it actually gets to the channel, the revenue tends to double, to triple, the more input you put into it. So now today, we really focus on 4 avenues. The distribution, which is syncing the basic channel management. Before every customer launches, we do a content audit. We've actually rolled out a product called My Optimize in the past year and a half. Essentially, it looks at every key point all the major OTAs are looking for, scores your property on a score of 1 to 100, and we help you guys get to at least above 80. We have the data behind it. If we help you guys and you guys work with us, get your key level content up to above this score on our algorithm, you will do double what you would on that channel before. The line is very, very linear. From those who want us to just push content out or help us work on content, it's very, very important. The next aspect, revenue management.
Real quick, key level. We hear this term a whole lot.
Good.
I mean, what is the difference between key level inventory and is it rep level?
So it's called multiple different things, but to us, key level inventory is the individual home, the individual unit. The hotel industry calls it book to door. Essentially, the exact pictures of the unit, people know exactly what they're getting. Traditionally, what a vacation rental company provides. Representative level is essentially by type of inventory. You're purchasing a room. You don't know exactly what you're going to get, but you're purchasing a room type. We support both, we operate on both, but since the beginning our focus has been key. The past year we've been getting into representative level as well.
Sorry, I didn't interrupt you. Just
No, it's okay.
It took me forever on that.
Yeah.
I kept getting it mixed up.
Yeah,
so.
representative is traditionally you're booking a hotel or a resort, right? Key level is what we do here in the vacation business. Now the last 2 parts are account management and revenue management. We do have multiple sources now where people can look at rates on a key level comparison or a representative level comparison, depending on your inventory, to help see market rates, market trends, right? Your booking Pal dashboard. And we have been aggressively rolling out an account management team. It's a point I think we've lacked over the years, is having enough educated staff members on our platform to help people use these products that we've had. So the past year we've rolled out a team of 10 account managers. I'm actually working on doubling our staff out in Irvine for that to help offer market-specific research and support.
Any of you guys have any questions about working with channel managers? Any issues that you guys have had?
We're doing great with Red Awning at the moment, so we've been tossing up the idea of trying to take on some other other things, but it just seems to work right now. I think the biggest thing is just trying to deal with VRBO and HomeAway and that mess.
I don't want to comment on Red Awning when they're not here, but there are very big.
That's the only time to comment on Red Awning. I'm kidding. Totally kidding.
We can go figure it out. It's very, very different. So right now, you might be on multiple channels, but if you really look at the numbers, or if you really look at it, you are not on any channels. Red Awning's licensed your data, they put it under their brand and pushed it out. So if they have you guys on Airbnb, and they have your competitors on Airbnb, it's on one single Airbnb account.
I know that we get to pick and choose which channels, where we won't, but Airbnb was not one of them. We've tested that one out ourselves and have decided that that's not a good fit for us. So I think the flexibility that we have with red awning is a nice component.
Right, right, and I think with both of us, you do have the same flexibility. You can pick and choose what sites. I'm just really looking at an example. You're on their massbooking.com account. You might be on their Mass Expedia account. The problem is you're not getting any brand recognition or reviews for yourself.
I actually noticed that. I was in Biloxi, and I was looking for a hotel actually in Biloxi on, I guess it was Priceline, but no, it's Booking. And it was like unit, like the title of the property was at Unit 1702 by Red Awning. And I thought that was, you know, kind of an interesting way to go. So I asked them about an interview with them, and he said that they feel like the Red Awning brand has more trust than the property manager. It's in an article, it's a quote.
Right.
But going back to merchant of record, are you guys the merchant of record?
No, we offer multiple options. So I guess another component we've been focusing on this year is customization. So we've really doubled down on our integrations with the top 10 PMSs we see out there to offer you guys multiple options on how things look in your system. We used to have one way of doing things, the way they pushed into your software. Some software was perfect, some softwares had some manual input to it. So what we've been working on the past few years, giving you guys the ability to adjust how rates come in, how the credit card information comes in, etc. With that customization, it's actually helped quite a few things.
With the rate management, if you're working with a channel manager, can you push out different rates to different channels?
You can. We prefer that we stick with the rate parity and we work on that. We've been educating on an accounting preference that helps managers, even though they might have a commission margin as high as these channels charge, there's a way to do it. It's a way that we can push the rates back to where your homeowners and yourselves only see a net. The credit card transaction is still charged, and this way you're not losing your revenue to commission. You're charging your revenue on the net rate instead of the book rate. The total cost to you guys ends up being about 3% instead of 20%. There is ways for you guys to fluctuate rates on different channels. We can do it seasonally. We have some users that like us to mark up the rates and then use promotions to bring it back down.
Is this a manual process, or do we
You
have to
have
do
an-
that throughout the dashboard?
So you can do it in the dashboard yourself, but most users just email their account manager. It's done within a day. You guys can get a ticket or email your personal rep.
Joel, for rate parity versus pushing out different rates to different channels, what are your thoughts on that?
So we've always been a fan of rate parity, and part of the reason for that is that we specialize in clustered listings or representative listings on hotel-style channels where rate parity is really important. So if you don't kind of toe the line, you end up being really impacted in the search and your conversion goes down. So we tend to favor trying to get you on page 1 as high a ranking as you can on those big sites.
One of the things that HomeAway has added to their algorithm is offer strength, essentially discounting. So that and I'm wondering, how does that work in your system? If I'm Rebecca and I want to discount a property 10%, do I do it in the system or do I do it through you?
Well, so we don't currently connect to HomeAway.
Well,
but we do provide promotions, and so we fully support those. And they can be channel specific, or they can be across all channels at the same time.
pushing out like property titles and stuff like that, can you change those through the channel manager? Or like, if you change in the property management system, it goes out to you, to the channels. Can you make those specific and do A/B testing and things like that using that?
We tend not to do that, but we try to take a kind of a hands-off approach on the branding of the properties. We don't put our name in front of it. If our customers want to experiment with that, we certainly facilitate that.
So going on that, let's bring back this whole lovely redaction of customer information as it gets fed back to us. You guys are participating in this. I know Red Awning does it. I know that sometimes I don't know that they've rolled it out completely to a point where, I know that if we were speaking to them through our LMS and having a conversation with our guest, there are certain bits of information that is redacted on purpose so that way we don't actually have contact with the customer. Now, with you guys, probably the same thing. To us, that is a huge lack of customer service in a way that we can't reach our guests. If they don't have any idea who we are, they have no problems, you know, there's a lack of communication. So why is it that you guys want to do that?
Well, so we don't.
Okay, well,
so
there's a good thing.
Every time a booking is made on one of the channels, we pass through booking notification. And that booking notification has every single piece of information that we receive from the channel. So unfortunately, I can't go find out who that guest is for you because they hide it very well.
Mm-hmm.
But we can provide kind of every check-in and check-out instructions, the date and the time, the rate, whether it was on promotion or whether it wasn't. And we also actually calculate some supplemental financial information for you as well. So Expedia, when you book on Expedia, they send you the net of their commission. They don't send you what the sale cost was for that booking. We'll actually go in and calculate it for you based on your commission. So this is what the guest paid, even though Expedia won't give you that information.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess I'm going back to that whole, like even in a query, even if it's a comment, if they want to know more information, when the booking comes through, I know from Red Awning, it comes through as guest 0010 whatever at redawning.com. I mean, do you guys pass that information that way also, or are you passing it through as an actual guest email?
So oftentimes the guest email will look like guest at gobbledygook,
right.
Booking.com, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we pass that on. There are some interesting ways that we're exploring of finding out who the guest is and providing you that information directly, but that's probably going to take a little while for us to figure out.
Yeah. That seems to be the biggest issue with dealing with any OTA or channel manager to begin with, is just this, all of a sudden, this lack of us being able to communicate with our own guests. And that takes, like I said, it takes away that service, it takes away that experience. And for a vacation rental manager, it's difficult for us to even try to use a channel manager or an OTA as a source of revenue for us, because without that communication, without that service or that experience that everybody keeps trying to shove down your throat, then how do you do it? So we have to be creative. So like when the other speakers were talking about the top 5 things to do, I was shocked to see the ones that are up there, because I feel like those are the worst ones, except for us over here. But those are the ones who are really taking it away from us and actually making it more difficult for us to even begin to have that experience with our guests.
Matt, I'm sorry, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think Doug really made a great point where he said over the next 10 years, importance is going to gravitate towards CRM systems.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you that our long-term goal and vision is not to be a representative of just the OTAs, but to help augment bookings in any way, in a completely agnostic fashion. And so we're talking to booking engine companies to partner with them.
Mm-hmm.
We want our platform to service sort of all the points of sale that there are, revenue management included, account management included, and just help get more bookings.
Yeah, I think Doug's right about that too.
And to kind of extend on what you were saying, we do the same thing. We push in all the raw data to you. They were mentioning this morning about how Moy started slowly moving towards more close communication. Most of these OTAs and Airbnb, things like that, were built on close communication. So we give you all the data that we can get. You get the guest name, you get their phone number at the time of booking. Most thing that's usually coded is their email.
I've seen it when we've had communications back with our guests using that encoded email, where our name will literally be blacked out, or our phone number, or any other chance that we had to say, come back to us, is redacted. Like
I had
it
an
drives us
interview
nuts.
with Jeff Hurst at HomeAway, and he said, we are forever trying to plug a leaky boot. So it's like any leakage at all right now, they're trying to plug that up, and they're pretty open about that right now.
Yeah.
If you
Sorry.
have no contact with the guest, ability to get with the guest, how do you deal with an emergency situation? We've got to deal with them when there's a hurricane, there's a mandatory evacuation. Do we call you guys and HomeAway say, hey, go ahead and let our guests know we gotta evacuate.
We've run
See ya.
into that issue quite a bit too, where the guests will figure out who we are, want to rearrange their schedule,
Check out late.
check out late, maybe cancel, whatever it is. We have to in turn go, we're so sorry, but you didn't book with us, and we have no idea what to give you, because here, you can call Red Awning, or you can call, booking.com, or you can call Expedia, you can call whoever it is that you booked through. And then when they call these people, they get an automated phone call. They can't get a customer service rep who actually knows anything. it's more or less a national something that it's a hurdle that every property manager has to go through when dealing with an OTA. And I think that with us having a few of those named storms come through our area the last summer, we've had to send out emails, and those people are just SOL, unfortunately, because there's no way that we
That's
can
terrible.
yeah.
I do think that, you know, the vacation rental buy, the purchase decision is a considered purchase.
Mm-hmm.
It's not it's not like a hotel. Like, there should be free stay communication.
Well, hotel is a desk.
Yeah, totally.
They're right there.
I mean, I can make
You're on the
a
physical property. It's different,
hotel
but they're all over the
decision
place all over the
right
time.
now. I could grab my phone right now and book a hotel and not think twice about it. I definitely would not book an 8-bedroom beach house right now without thinking about it. You know, there are just some additional features that you have, which makes your guys' job really challenging in terms of, because you're essentially trying to normalize the data, right? So that you can provide an individual property into a commoditized marketplace. And I just from a theoretic standpoint, I just wonder, are there ways to expand the idea of the individuality, or are we really headed into a hotel rigid booking environment going forward?
And so what I advise, generally with most of our partners, commenting really on, post-booking communication. There's no pre-booking communication except for Airbnb, one of the channels that we offer. And as you said, if it's pre-booking, most of the information you send out is blurred out. So the second they do book, it kind of goes back to what they were talking about with sending out an actual contract, paper contract. These links for the OTAs, even though they are coded, they do support attachments. Anything that you guys normally send on your mailers usually goes through just fine. If you guys want to send a room agreement out, it goes through just fine. But beyond that, I suggest actually either calling the desk, or if you have a front desk check-in where they have to come through, that's where you get their email. Either so similar to having them sign on a rental agreement, maybe even add an email tab for that. Right? That's the best way to get the communication to store in your own marketing for the time being. I don't see the OTAs giving up any more information. Expedia actually has a pretty neat program. They have a program called Traveler Preference, one of which where Expedia actually merchant sends you guys a virtual credit card, and with that it's coded information, right? You get the guest phone number and their guest name, but the email is coded. If the guests choose not to book through Expedia and book through you guys, usually with a deposit function, you do get their actual email on that channel. I don't see that changing. They've had that set up, but that's actually what they prefer to use. Gives people a couple options, but the procedure of calling the guests, asking for the email after the booking, it's not frowned upon, it's actually encouraged.
In the Orange Beach proposed document, one of the things that's in there is that they want the name of every guest who's going to be staying in the house in Orange Beach. And I was like, that's going to be fun. Really. But at the same time, it'd be great for a CRM. But, you know,
The good thing about post-booking communication, I've actually been on a platform that's, or book through a website that's meant for pre-booking communication, and I get to that point, I don't do it, I stop. Right? So if you do have a process, it's now after the booking's done, it's after you have the money in pocket.
Yeah.
You're not spending a lot of time on somebody who still might go to somebody else. If you think about it from a time saver, it might be an extra step to call and ask them for an email, but you're not talking to anybody that you don't already have a deposit for.
Do y'all have any other questions about channel marketing? It's a complicated thing. I mean, all four of you. Yeah, sure.
So you asked about the difference between individual unit and are we going to the hotel style commoditized environment? And I don't think it's a either or. The OTAs have spent a lot of money and have been very successful at being an intermediary between you and the guest. Unfortunately,
they're very good at.
They're really good at it, right? And they're getting different types of people who prefer different types of experiences. I can't imagine that you're going to go to a big condo property in Gulf Shores with 200 rooms that are very similar, and you're going to want to go onto HomeAway and kind of flip through every single room, every single 2-bedroom, as if it's a unique room, when it's not. The furniture may be different.
These res departments may disagree with you.
Well,
I mean, I'm thinking how many reservations calls I've taken in Kaiser of like,
I wouldn't do that, but maybe there are guests that
Yeah,
do,
totally.
right? And-
Well, they are different though. I mean,
Very different.
it is interesting though. I mean, I think what it does mean is there's disruption still coming in our space because the perfect solution has not yet been created.
Yeah, and we're not trying to influence, you know, where the eyeballs go.
Right.
We're trying to meet them
facilitate.
at the point of sale
Yeah.
and make sure that the listing appears in all the places it needs to go. If, you know, tomorrow a new OTA arises where people really like to travel with their pet cats, you know.
You'll push it out too.
We want to be there too.
Exactly.
You never know what's going to happen.
Tony, you want to join us up here for a minute?
Sure.
Good. Anybody else want to be on the hot seat? Yeah. Starting to get brave as we get closer to happy hour. So Tony is also somebody I think most of you probably know. Tony Santelli from CSA. How long have you been with CSA now?
10 years. Yeah. Been a while.
Any CSA clients in the house?
Thank you.
So tell us what's going on with travel insurance right now.
Right now, we are awaiting. We're awaiting what the state commissioners from all 50 states are going to say about our industry. As HomeAway and Airbnb and companies like that gain a spot in the national limelight, they turn the cameras on anybody that's within our industry. So as far as insurance is concerned, nobody needs to, you know, panic or do anything right now. Most of the regulation that's coming down is going to be upon the insurers and not outlets like yourselves. But in order to be compliant, CSA is going to you know, do what we need to do so that we don't get fined and we don't have your companies get fined. So stay tuned. I don't really have any huge updates, but the state commissioners are continuing to meet. We were told that there will be a decision at some point in time in July, and so we'll communicate from there.
What programs are most likely to be regulated?
So the programs, anything that's insurance is going to be regulated. What also is going to happen is once this is over, the state insurance commissioners are going to come out to companies, and obviously they'll start with the bigger ones and go all the way down, and they're going to make sure that your offerings are compliant. They're going to take a look at your travel insurance. They're going to make sure that you are in an opt-in or opt-out, environment, meaning that the guest has a choice to say yes or no. Now, how you position that yes or no is up to you, and we'll work with you on that. As far as damage protection is concerned, they're going to look at those that are self-insuring. And if some of you were in the earlier speech where Laird was talking, you know, how he stressed the words not to use the word insurance. Well, there's not only that word, there's a bunch of words not to use. I strongly suggest if you are considering any type of self-insuring that you get a lawyer involved. You got to get it to where that language that you use can pass muster by the state insurance commissioner. If the state insurance commissioner says that looks fine, then I wouldn't worry. But other than that, you don't know what they're going to do in Montgomery or Tallahassee. You don't know. So, like the credit cards, it's a constant moving, regulated, you know, industry. So, insurance is probably the most regulated industry. So, yeah, we're like the ladies over here with credit cards. You know, we get told changes all the time. Most of the changes don't affect you folks; they affect us. But there's more to come. No reason to panic. I don't see anything. I don't see anything in the near future that's reason for panic. But who knows? Panic today because the stock market was down 1,100 points. But
No way, I haven't been online at all.
it was down 1,600. It rallied to go back.
It was that. It was down 666 points on Friday. I'm like, that sounds creepy.
Yeah, that would be things to panic about. But no, just make sure that your offerings online are compliant. Make sure that you're sending a policy to the guest. Most of the softwares out there automatically send the policies. If you're on a software platform that doesn't automatically send policies, make sure you're sending policies to the guest, because that's the biggest no-no in a Department of Insurance. If a guest if a guest says, "I never received my policy," that's not good.
Do you have any questions about what's going on with travel insurance right now, or have you had any issues?
I have a question,
Sure.
actually, that we've noticed something very interesting happen lately, with CSA and HomeAway. We charge our guests a damage waiver that's very clearly stated. In about the last 6 months, HomeAway is offering damage protection from CSA to our guests at an additional cost. So essentially, they're getting charged double damage waiver, unbeknownst to them, because they're not looking at their rates breakdown. So how do we facilitate that to guests that, well, ours was there first, you opted into this, and now we have a stain on the carpet? Well, I'm just gonna be honest, I'm gonna come to you and say, hey, you get to clean that now.
Sure. Well, there's a couple of things there. So HomeAway is offering damage protection on their online bookings.
Is it opt in or opt out?
Everything's opt-in, yeah. I mean, nobody can operate in an opt-out environment. So that guest is choosing that. Selectively, that guest is choosing that damage protection. If that guest then subsequently has an offer from you to choose damage protection, I would have them cancel the HomeAway.
Ours is on there automatically and stated there.
Okay. That's, I like I said, I would be wary of that. I can't tell you how to run your business, but ask the state commissioner. Are you in Alabama or Florida?
Alabama.
Okay.
Well,
Ask the
I
state
guess
commissioner is the way how the what are you putting it in to a certain fee? Are you calling it out?
It's called out exactly what it is.
Good luck. I mean, it's not really
Is
compliant.
that
to
just
be
the way
honest.
HomeAway is set up, or
Yeah.
is it?
This is something new that we've just noticed. I mean, our fees have always been like that since we've.
HomeAway doesn't have the ability to pass through a variable rate. It doesn't have the ability to do any pass-through rates. So, if you're an integrated part, yeah, it doesn't have the ability to pass that rate through. My suggestion to you folks, because I hear this all the time, is tell HomeAway that you don't want them to sell insurance to the guests that are booking your homes.
Will they do that?
If they hear enough people get to know them, they will.
Maybe we're lying about
And
the
we're back to that.
Yeah, so I'll tell you this, HomeAway is going to sell insurance whether you like it or not. They're gonna sell whether it's CSA or XYZ or ABC. It, as a channel, as an integrated property management partner, I think that's what they call it, IPM or something, make your voice heard. Ask them, tell them. You know. But as far as the double policy, you can either have them cancel your policy or cancel the HomeAway policy and just use one.
Yeah, we haven't got very far.
Okay.
They say
Is it the same policy?
basically.
I don't know what they're off. They're doing a self-insuring thing, so I don't know what their
Well,
policy
like for
language
us,
reads.
since we have CSA, so if we're trying to sell it on our end, but they booked through VRBO, so they've already opted because they've seen it on a VRBO pop-up or whatever. Is there a way that we can say, well, if you get it through us, you're getting this coverage, but with them, you're getting this coverage?
It's the damage protection is pretty much the same. Yeah, the
So
damage.
you're saying the CSA damage protection that's on the HomeAway site is the same thing as your standard trip insurance?
No.
No,
Okay,
it's different.
it's the same damage waiver as like what we would have.
Like, I'm not quite certain what you guys have, but it's the same damage protection if you're using a CSA product. It's the same.
Is your damage protection internal, or do you see it as
It's internal.
Yeah, I've noticed some of that duplicate fee structure on the HomeAway sites recently.
They also
Yeah, I don't
charge
know if,
us double service fees to some of our guests.
Oh, that's,
Yeah, we're told it was a hiccup. And to, yeah. Oh, so I was like, well, would you like to call the guest?
say
and explain
really
to
long
them?
hiccup.
Oh, yeah, they loved me when I called. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, there's a seminar tomorrow morning
Oh,
for
we're
you all
going.
have been invited, so that's really where you can probably hopefully get
Yeah.
your questions answered
Well, totally.
or you know.
And you'll be there, right?
And I'll be there.
So you can say, well, Tony said.
Say Tony told you to attend the seminar. Don't say
Exactly.
why.
Any questions for any of these guys? I don't even know what time it is. Yeah,
4:15.
4:15.
oh,
Is that time?
yeah.
Oh.
I wonder who has the next session.
He tried to come in.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't, clearly I'm on my A game. So thank you guys. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.